Welcome to Amy's Romance Stories. If you're new here, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe to join our growing family of Mafia romance story lovers. The chandelier light caught the tears on Callista Verne's face, but they were not tears of fear. She had learned years ago that tears were currency, and tonight, standing on a marble stage in a white silk dress with her wrists bound in a velvet rope, she was spending them wisely. 200 masked faces stared up at her from the Venetian ballroom, their hunger disguised as sophistication, their darkness wrapped in expensive cologne and designer suits. The auctioneer's voice echoed through the palazzo. 1 million euros. 1.2 million. 1.5. The numbers climbed like steps to hell, and Callista kept her chin high, her eyes downcast, playing the role of broken bird perfectly. She had been drugged 3 hours ago, something mild that made her limbs heavy but left her mind sharp. They always drugged the girls. It made them compliant, easy to handle, less likely to scream or run. But Callista had built up a tolerance during the 2 weeks Vesper Dalka had held her. She had swallowed pills and then forced her fingers down her throat when the guards were not looking. She had learned his patterns, memorized faces, listened to conversations through walls, and she had learned that tonight, the man who wanted her dead, the man her brother Theron owed 200,000 euros to, would be here. Sebastian Kovar, the Russian who had turned northern Italy into his kingdom. The ghost who attended auctions like this one to buy, as Vesper had laughingly told her. The pretty broken things. 1.8 million euros. The bid came from the back of the room, and Callista let her eyes flicker up just enough to see him. Tall, dark suit that probably cost more than her childhood home, hair touched with silver at the temples despite looking younger than 40. Sebastian Kovar did not wear a mask. He did not need to. His face was blank, almost bored, as if he were bidding on furniture instead of a human life. 2 million. Vesper countered from the left side of the room, his voice sharp with irritation. He was not supposed to be bidding. This was supposed to be simple. He would let Sebastian buy her, and she would get close to the man, find evidence that he had killed his wife Isolde 5 years ago, and bring it back to Vesper. In exchange, Theron's debt would be forgiven, and her brother would live. But now Vesper was bidding, inflating the price, playing a game Callista did not understand. 2.5 million. Sebastian's voice cut through the room like a blade, quiet but absolute. The room went silent. No one bid against that tone. Vesper stood frozen for 3 seconds, fury radiating from his body, then sat down hard. Going once, going twice. Sold. The word felt like a chain snapping into place around Callista's neck. The auctioneer gestured, and 2 men in black suits came to escort her off the stage. But before they reached her, Sebastian was there, moving through the crowd like smoke, and suddenly his hand was raised in a stopping gesture. "I will handle my purchase myself," he said, and the men stepped back immediately. He climbed the 3 steps to the stage, his eyes on her face, and Callista felt her rehearsed mask slip for just a moment. Up close, he was more than handsome. He was devastating. Sharp jaw, gray eyes that looked almost silver in the light, and a mouth that was neither cruel nor kind, just firm. He walked around her slowly, a predator circling prey, and she felt his gaze on the curve of her neck, the line of her spine, the trembling she could not quite hide. When he stopped behind her, she felt the heat of him near her back, felt his breath against her ear. "Do you know what I just paid for you?" he asked, his voice low, intimate, meant only for her. "Too much," she replied, keeping her voice steady despite her hammering heart. He made a sound that might have been amusement. "No, Bella, not nearly enough." His fingers touched her chin, tilting her face up and to the side so he could see her better. The touch was not rough, but it was not gentle either. It was possessive, exploratory, curious. You have her eyes, he said, almost to himself. That makes you either very lucky or completely doomed. Before she could ask who he meant, he produced a key from his pocket and unlocked the velvet cuffs on her wrists. She resisted the urge to rub the marks they had left. He noticed anyway. His thumb brushed over the red line on her left wrist, his jaw tightening. Amateurs, he muttered. When I bind you, there will be no marks unless I want there to be. The promise in those words sent heat curling through her stomach. He took her hand, laced his fingers through hers like they were lovers leaving a date instead of a monster and his purchase leaving an auction. As they descended the stage stairs, his other hand settled on her lower back, warm and possessive through the thin silk. I have broken empires for less than the way you are looking at me right now, he said quietly as they walked through the parting crowd. Keep doing it. I want to see if you are brave or just stupid. The night air hit her face as they exited the palazzo, and Callista dragged it into her lungs, trying to clear her head. A black car waited at the bottom of the steps, sleek and expensive. Sebastian opened the door himself, handed her in like she was something precious, then slid in beside her. The door closed, sealing them in leather and shadows. The driver pulled away without needing instructions. They drove in silence for 2 minutes, crossing a bridge, the lights of Venice blurring past the tinted windows. You are not going to hurt me tonight, Callista said, breaking the silence. It was a gamble, showing confidence instead of fear, but fear had never saved anyone. Sebastian turned his head to look at her, one eyebrow raised. So certain? He asked. You are too curious, she replied, meeting his eyes. You want to know why I am not afraid. His jaw tightened, a muscle jumping, and she knew she had hit something true. You are observant, he said after a pause. That will either serve you very well or get you killed. The car climbed into the mountains, leaving the water behind, rising into darkness and stone. Callista watched the landscape change, memorizing turns, counting minutes. 23 minutes from Venice. The villa appeared suddenly, a sprawling fortress of glass and iron and old stone, perched on the mountainside like a crown. Lights glowed in some windows, but most of it was dark. He lives alone, she thought. Or at least, he keeps his people at a distance. The car stopped in a circular driveway. Sebastian exited and once again offered his hand. She took it, let him guide her up the stone steps, through doors that whispered open, into a foyer that could have held her entire childhood apartment 3 times over. Marble floors, a chandelier that dripped crystal, art on the walls that she recognized even with her limited knowledge. A Modigliani, a Sheila, pieces worth millions, just hanging in an entryway. Your room is upstairs, Sebastian said, releasing her hand finally. You will find clothes that fit you. Toiletries. Everything you need. A guard will be outside your door, not to keep you prisoner, but to keep you safe. There are dangerous men who would love to take something of mine. Something of mine. The words sat between them, a claim and a threat. What do you want from me? Callista asked. He smiled then, the first real expression she had seen on his face. It was not a kind smile. I want you to rest tonight, he said. Tomorrow we will discuss expectations. He turned to leave, then paused. What is your name? He asked. You know my name, she replied. You bought me. I know the name on the auction listing, he corrected. Callista Verne, age 24. No family. Sold by her brother to pay his debts. But I do not know if that is the truth or just the story they told. It is the truth, she said quietly. My brother sold me. For drugs. For money. For 50,000 euros. And a promise that he would not end up in the canals. Sebastian's eyes flickered with something, pity maybe, or recognition. Brothers are complicated, he said. They betray us and we still love them. It is a particular kind of curse. Then he was gone, his footsteps echoing away down a hallway, leaving her alone with a guard who would not meet her eyes. Before you click away, let me ask you something. If you are listening to this story right now and you have not subscribed, why not? I am literally giving you fully written, dramatic, high-quality stories for free. The least you can do is tap that subscribe button. It takes 1 second. Do not be that person who listens to every episode and never subscribes. Come on, do better. The room he had given her was larger than any place Callista had ever slept. A 4-poster bed with silk sheets in deep emerald green, a bathroom with marble counters and a tub big enough to drown in. A walk-in closet already filled with clothes in her exact size, dresses and jeans and soft sweaters. All expensive, all chosen by someone with excellent taste. She showered for 20 minutes, scrubbing off the auction, the hands that had touched her during the inspection, the fear and the pretending. When she finally crawled into the bed, she did not sleep. She stared at the ceiling and thought about Sebastian's hands on her chin, his voice in her ear. Do you know what I just paid for you? 2.5 million euros for a girl whose brother had sold her for 50,000. The math did not make sense. Unless Vesper had been right. Unless she really did look exactly like Isolde Kovar, the woman who had died 5 years ago in a car accident that no one quite believed was an accident. The woman Sebastian had supposedly loved. The woman he had supposedly killed. Morning came with soft light through gauzy curtains. A knock on the door, and a woman in her 50s entered with a tray. "Breakfast," she said in accented English. "Mr. Kovar requests your presence in the dining room in 1 hour." The woman set the tray down, poured coffee from a silver pot, and left without meeting Callista's eyes. The staff were terrified of him. That told her something. She dressed in jeans and a cream cashmere sweater, both of which fit perfectly, which meant he had studied her body carefully during the auction. The thought should have disgusted her, but instead it made her skin feel warm. She hated that. Hated that some part of her had responded to the way he looked at her, touched her, claimed her. You are here to spy on him, she reminded herself, to find evidence, to save Theron, not to feel butterflies when a monster calls you Bella. The dining room was on the ground floor, surrounded by windows that looked out over mountains and sky. Sebastian sat at the head of a long table, reading something on a tablet, a cup of espresso at his elbow. He looked up when she entered, and his eyes did that same sweep they had done last night, cataloging, assessing. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair to his right, not the far end of the table. Close. She sat. A staff member appeared immediately with more coffee, with plates of fruit and pastries and soft cheese. "Did you sleep?" Sebastian asked. "No," she said honestly. He nodded as if he had expected that. "Neither did I," he admitted. "I kept thinking about your eyes." She said nothing, just sipped her coffee and waited. "Do you know why you are here, Callista?" he asked. "You bought me," she replied. "That is the transaction, not the reason," he corrected. "The reason is that you look exactly like someone I lost. Someone I—" He paused, searching for the word. "Someone I failed to protect." "Isolde," Callista said quietly. His hand tightened on his espresso cup, just a fraction. "How do you know that name?" he asked, his voice dropping into something dangerous. "Everyone knows the story," she replied carefully. "The beautiful wife of the Russian king. Dead in a car crash. Some say murder. Some say you were involved." His laugh was bitter. "Some say," he repeated. "Everyone says." "And what do you say, Callista?" "I say I do not know you well enough to judge," she replied. "But I know that if you wanted me dead, I would already be dead. So whatever you want from me, it is not that. Smart girl, he murmured. He set down his cup, leaned back in his chair. Here are the rules. You will stay in the east wing of the villa. You will have tutors, language, music, art, anything you want to learn. You will have clothes, books, anything you want within reason. You will dine with me every evening. You will not attempt to contact the outside world. You will not try to escape. And if I do, she asked, then I will catch you, he said simply, and we will have a very different conversation about consequences. His eyes held hers. But I do not think you will run. Not yet. You are too curious. You want to understand what this is. So do I. He stood, came around the table, and once again his fingers found her chin, tilting her face up. I am not a good man, Callista. I have done things that would make you sick. But I keep what is mine safe. You are mine now. That means no one touches you. No one harms you. No one even looks at you wrong. Do you understand? I am not yours, she said, even as her traitorous body leaned into his touch. Not yet, he agreed. But you will be. His thumb brushed her lower lip, the touch so light and so electric she stopped breathing. You will be, he repeated, then released her and walked away. The days blurred into a strange routine. Mornings with a language tutor who taught her Russian, afternoons reading in the library or walking the villa grounds with a guard trailing 10 paces behind, evenings with Sebastian, dinners that stretched for hours, conversations that danced around truth. He asked about her childhood, her brother, her dreams. She asked about his empire, his collection of art, his loneliness. Because he was lonely. She saw it in the way he watched her, the way he found excuses to touch her hand, her shoulder, her hair. On the third night, he stood behind her at the piano, guiding her hands over the keys. Softer, he murmured, his chest against her back, his breath warm on her neck. Like this. His hands covered hers, pressing her fingers into the ivory. Feel that, he said. Control and surrender. You will learn the difference. She could barely breathe, could barely think. Her entire world had narrowed to the places where their bodies touched. When the lesson ended and he stepped away, she felt cold. On the seventh night, over wine and candlelight, he leaned forward and said, You are playing a role, the obedient captive. She met his eyes. Is that not what you want? She asked. No, he said flatly. I want you furious. I want you plotting. Show me the fire, not the ash. So she did. She set down her wineglass and said, You want to know what I think? I think you bought a ghost. I think every time you look at me, you see her, and you hate yourself for it, and you hate me for reminding you. I think you are trying to bring her back through me, and it is never going to work because I am not her. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Then Sebastian smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached his eyes and made him look almost human. There she is, he said softly. There is my girl. And Callista's heart did a traitorous flip at the word my. On the 10th night she could not sleep. The villa was too quiet, her thoughts too loud. She wrapped herself in a robe and wandered downstairs, drawn to the library by some instinct. She found him there, sitting in the dark with a glass of whiskey, staring at nothing. You should be in your room, he said without turning. So should you, she replied. This is my house, he countered. Then why do you look like you are hiding? She asked. He turned then, and even in the darkness she could see the pain in his face. Because everywhere I look I see ghosts, he said, and now I have invited another one in. I am not a ghost, Callista said, moving closer. I am right here, alive, real. Prove it, he challenged. So she crossed the space between them, her heart hammering, her hands shaking. And before she could second-guess herself, she reached out and touched his face, traced the line of his jaw, the shape of his mouth. He moved so fast. 1 second she was touching him. The next he was on his feet, backing her against the bookshelf, his hands in her hair, his body caging hers. "You think you understand me?" he asked, his voice rough. "I think you are lonely," she whispered. "I think you bought me because I remind you that you can still feel something." "Dangerous words, Callista," he warned. His hand tightened in her hair, tilting her head back, exposing her throat. "I am not a good man." "I know exactly what you are," she replied, breathless. "And you are still here," he said, his eyes searching hers. "Still looking at me like that. Like you want me to ruin you." "Maybe I am going to ruin you first," she whispered. The sound he made was half laugh, half groan. He leaned in, his mouth a breath away from hers, and she thought, "This is it. He is going to kiss me. I am going to let him. I am going to kiss him back." But he stopped, pulled back, stepped away. "Go to bed, Callista," he said, his voice strained. "While I still have the control to let you." She stood there, shaking, wanting, hating herself for wanting. "Why?" she asked. "Because if I start, I will not stop," he said. "And you are not ready for what I want from you." Then he walked out, leaving her alone in the library, her lips unkissed and her body on fire. That night, she made her decision. She was going to escape. Not because she had found evidence against him. She had found nothing. No proof that he killed Isolde. No sign that he was anything other than what he appeared, a criminal with a code, a monster with soft edges. She was going to escape, because if she stayed one more day, one more night, one more almost kiss, she was going to fall. And she could not afford that. Theron was still in danger. Vesper was still waiting. And she was still, despite the silk sheets and the tutors and the way Sebastian looked at her, a prisoner. 3 weeks and 2 days after the auction, Callista made her move. A supply delivery came every Tuesday. She had befriended one of the kitchen staff, a young woman named Mira who pitied her. Mira left a door unlocked. Callista waited until the guards changed shifts at 3 in the afternoon, the 15-minute window where the East Wing was unwatched. She wore jeans, boots, a thick jacket stolen from a closet. She walked out like she belonged there, climbed into the back of the supply truck, buried herself under empty crates. Her heart did not stop pounding until the truck was through the gates, down the mountain road, 20 minutes away. Then she climbed out at a stop sign, stumbled into the forest, and ran. The snow had started to fall, thick and wet, obscuring her tracks. Good. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs screamed, until she could not hear anything but her own gasping breath. Then she heard him. Callista. Her name, carried on the wind, almost conversational. She spun, saw nothing but trees and snow. "Run, little rabbit," his voice called. "Closer now. Let us see how far you get." And despite the fear, despite the cold, she felt something else. Excitement. The thrill of the hunt. She was prey, yes, but she had teeth too. She made it 3 kilometers before he caught her. Not because she was slow, but because he was faster. And he knew these mountains like he knew the taste of betrayal. One moment she was running through white-laden pines. The next she was airborne, tackled into a snowdrift so deep it swallowed them both. His weight pinned her, his hand fisted in her hair, his breath hot against her frozen cheek. Sebastian did not speak. He simply held her there, his chest heaving against her back, his grip unrelenting but not painful. She struggled once, twice, then went still, recognizing the futility. 3 weeks of soft beds and language lessons had not erased what he was: apex predator. Killer. King of a dark empire built on violence and control. Did you really think I would not notice? He said finally, his voice so calm it terrified her more than rage would have. Did you think I do not count your heartbeats at dinner? That I do not have cameras in every hallway? That I have not been waiting for exactly this moment? Callista turned her head just enough to see his face. Snowflakes caught in his dark hair, melted on his sharp cheekbones. He looked almost beautiful in his fury. Then why let me get this far? She demanded. Because I needed to know, he said. If you were running from me, or to someone. He hauled her to her feet with effortless strength, spun her to face him, his hands gripping her upper arms. So tell me, Callista Verne, who sent you? What are you really doing in my house? Her mind raced through options, lies, half-truths, but his gray eyes were surgical in their focus, and she knew with sudden clarity that he had always known, from the moment he bit on her, maybe from before. Vesper Dalka, she said, abandoning pretense. He wanted me to find evidence that you killed Isolde. He said if I brought him proof, he would forgive my brother's debt. Sebastian's laugh was arctic. And you believed him. You believed that a man who auctions human beings would keep his word about anything. She ripped herself from his grasp. What choice did I have? She shouted, her voice echoing through the frozen forest. He sold me, my own brother sold me, and Vesper said he would kill him if I did not cooperate. So yes, I believed him because the alternative was watching Theron die. Something shifted in Sebastian's expression. The fury banked, replaced by something colder and sharper. Calculation. Your brother is already dead, he said quietly. Vesper killed him 4 days after the auction. I am sorry. The words hit her like a physical blow. She staggered backward, shaking her head. No, she whispered. No, that is not. You're lying. Why would I lie? Sebastian asked. You think I need to manipulate you now. You are standing in the middle of my mountain, 3 kilometers from the nearest road, in a snowstorm, with no money and no allies. I could tell you anything. But I am telling you the truth because you deserve to know what kind of man you were working for. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, turned it toward her. The photo made her knees give out. Theron's face, slack and gray, a bullet hole in his temple, his body dumped in an alley like garbage. The date stamp read 3 weeks ago. She heard a sound like a wounded animal and realized it was coming from her own throat. Sebastian caught her before she hit the ground, lowered them both into the snow and let her break apart in his arms. She did not know how long she sobbed. Time lost meaning. When the tears finally stopped, she was hollow, scraped clean of everything but rage. Vesper, she said, her voice hoarse. He killed Theron and he still sent me to spy on you. Why? What was the point? Sebastian's hand moved in slow circles on her back, a gesture so tender it made her want to weep again. Because Vesper does not want evidence that I killed Isolde, he said. He wants you to kill me. Callista pulled back to look at him. What? She asked. Think about it, Sebastian said. He trains you for 2 weeks, drugs you just enough to make you compliant but not enough to break you. Tells you a story that makes me the villain, sends you into my home looking exactly like my dead wife, knowing I would be vulnerable, knowing I would. He paused, his jaw tightening, knowing I would care about you. And then what? You gain my trust. You get close. And one night, when my guard is down, you put a knife in my heart, or poison in my wine. Vesper gets rid of his biggest rival without lifting a finger, and you take the fall. The logic was flawless and horrifying. She thought about the pills Vesper had given her, the questions he had asked, the way he had smiled when he told her about Isolde. You are so much like her, he had said. Sebastian will not be able to resist you. I never wanted to kill you, Callista said, her voice breaking. I just wanted to save my brother. I know, Sebastian said. That is why you are still breathing. He stood, pulled her up with him. We need to get back before you lose a finger to frostbite. She did not move. Did you kill her? She asked. Did you kill Isolde? The question hung between them, fragile and sharp. Sebastian looked at her for a long moment, snow gathering on his shoulders, his expression unreadable. Then he unbuttoned his coat, pulled it off, wrapped it around her shaking frame. No, he said. I loved her. And I failed to protect her from the man who did kill her, Vesper Dalka. He murdered my wife because she discovered he was trafficking children, not just adults. She was going to expose him, burn his entire operation to the ground. So he cut her brake lines and made it look like an accident. I have spent 5 years gathering proof, building a case that would destroy him completely. And then you appeared. Callista's breath caught. Looking like her, she said. Looking exactly like her, Sebastian confirmed. At first, I thought Vesper had somehow cloned her, some sick trick. But then I researched you. Callista Verne, born in Roma, mother unknown, father a drunk who died when you were 12, raised by your grandmother until she passed, then by your brother. No connection to Isolde at all. Just coincidence. His voice cracked on the last word. The universe's cruelest joke. Unless it is not coincidence, Callista said slowly, her mind racing. Isolde's mother, did she? Could she have? Had another child, Sebastian finished. I thought the same thing. So I had your DNA tested against samples I still have of Isolde's. The results came back 3 days ago. She stared at him. And, she whispered. Half-sisters, he said. Same mother, different fathers. Your mother gave you up, disappeared, married a wealthy businessman, had Isolde, and never spoke of you again. She died 10 years ago, never knowing her daughters would end up in the same hellish orbit. The revelation should have felt bigger, earth-shattering. Instead, it settled into Callista like the final piece of a puzzle she had not known she was solving. That is why you paid 2.5 million euros, she said. Not because I looked like your wife, because I am her family, the only family she has left. Yes, Sebastian said simply. And because the moment I saw you on that stage, I knew I could not let Vesper have you. Could not let him use you and throw you away like he does everyone else. Before you click away from this story, let me say something. If you have been listening to this entire story, all this drama and tension and twists, and you still have not hit subscribe, what are you even doing? You are getting full-length, professionally written stories completely free. Subscribing costs you nothing. It is literally the smallest way you can support this channel. Do not be that person who binges everything and ghosts. Subscribe. Right now. I will wait. They walked back to the villa in silence, his coat dwarfing her frame, his hand occasionally steadying her when she stumbled. The guards at the gate said nothing when they passed, though she saw the flash of relief on their faces. Inside, Sebastian led her not to her room, but to his office, a space she had never been allowed to enter. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one, and gestured for her to sit. So what happens now? Callista asked. Now, Sebastian said, you have a choice. I can put you on a plane tonight. New identity, new life, enough money to disappear somewhere Vesper will never find you. You walk away from all of this, from me, and you are free. She sipped the whiskey, felt it burn down her throat. Or, she prompted. Or you stay, he said, his eyes locked on hers. You help me destroy Vesper Dalka. We work together, finish what Isolde started, and burn his empire to ash. But I will not lie to you about what that means. It means danger. It means violence. It means becoming someone you might not recognize when you look in the mirror. And us? Callista asked. What does it mean for us? Sebastian set down his glass, came around the desk, crouched in front of her chair so they were eye level. Us, he said quietly, is the most dangerous variable in this equation. Because I want you, Callista. Not because you look like her. Because you are sharp and brave, and you look at me like I am a man instead of a monster. But if you stay, it cannot be for me. It has to be because you want the same thing I want. Justice, revenge, an ending written in blood. What if I want both? She said. The justice in you. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. Then you are braver than I thought, he murmured. Or more foolish. She set down her own glass, covered his hand with hers. I spent 3 weeks trying not to want this, she said. Trying to keep myself separate, to remember that I was there for a mission. But every dinner, every conversation, every time you touched me and then walked away, I wanted to stop pretending. So yes, I want to help you destroy Vesper. And yes, I want you. Even though it is messy and complicated and probably a terrible idea. Probably definitely a terrible idea, Sebastian said, but he was smiling, that rare, real smile that transformed his face. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away, and when she did not, when she met him halfway, his mouth finally claimed hers. The kiss was not gentle. It was hungry, desperate. 3 weeks of restraint shattering in an instant. His hands tangled in her hair. Her fingers gripped his shirt, and for a moment the world narrowed to the taste of whiskey and want. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. If we do this, he said, if we go after Vesper together, there is no going back. He will come for us with everything he has. I know, Callista said. Good, Sebastian replied. Then let me show you what we are up against. He pulled her to her feet, led her to a wall of his office that looked like simple paneling. He pressed his palm to a scanner and the wall slid open, revealing a room beyond. Inside was a command center that would make intelligence agencies weep. Screens showing surveillance feeds, file cabinets stuffed with documents, photos pinned to boards, red string connecting faces and places. And in the center of it all, Vesper Dalka's face, circled in crimson. This is 5 years of work, Sebastian said. Every transaction, every victim, every politician he has bought. I have been patient, methodical, building a case that would hold up in international court. But Vesper has always stayed one step ahead because he has someone feeding him information from inside law enforcement. I have never been able to identify who. Callista moved closer to the boards, studying the photos. Then she froze. That man, she said, pointing to a surveillance photo of Vesper with a gray-haired man in a suit. I saw him at the auction. He was bidding on other girls. Who is he? Sebastian's expression went dark. Matteo Rinaldi, he said. Italian senator, anti-trafficking crusader by day, Vesper's partner by night. He is the leak. Every time I have gotten close to exposing the operation, Rinaldi has made evidence disappear, witnesses recant. He is untouchable. He was, Callista said slowly, but I can touch him. She turned to face Sebastian, her mind spinning. You said I look exactly like Isolde. And Isolde was investigating Vesper when she died. What if she is not dead? What if I am her? Back from the grave, with evidence that has been hidden for 5 years. Evidence that names names, including Rinaldi's. Sebastian stared at her. You want to impersonate a dead woman, he said, to bait Vesper and a corrupt senator into, what? Confessing. No, Callista said, excitement building in her chest. I want to terrify them. Make them think Isolde survived, that she has been in hiding, that she is about to release everything. They will panic, make mistakes, turn on each other. And when they do, we will be waiting. It was insane. Brilliant and insane. Sebastian began to pace, his tactical mind clearly working through angles. Vesper saw you at the auction, he said. He knows who you are. Does he? Callista countered. He saw a drugged girl on a stage. He never got close. And afterward, I disappeared into your villa. But what if whispers start circulating? That Isolde Kovar has returned. That she has proof of everything. Vesper would never believe it, Sebastian said, but his tone was uncertain. He would have to investigate. And investigating means exposing himself. Exactly, Callista said. We make him come to us. He stopped pacing, looked at her with something like awe. You are not just brave, he said. You are vicious. I had a good teacher, she replied, holding his gaze. The man who bought me for 2.5 million euros and then taught me how predators think. His smile was sharp as a blade. When do we start? He asked. Tonight, she said. They spent the next 6 hours planning. Sebastian had a contact in the media, a journalist who owed him a significant favor. By midnight, a rumor appeared on a darknet forum known for trafficking intelligence. Isolde Kovar seen in Prague, very much alive, meeting with Interpol. By 2 a.m, the rumor had spread to 3 more forums, each with slightly different details. Vienna, Berlin, always moving, always one step ahead. By dawn, Sebastian's surveillance on Vesper's known locations showed increased activity. Phone calls, scrambled meetings, panic. It is working, Sebastian said, watching the feeds. Rinaldi just arrived at Vesper's Venice safe house, unscheduled, unannounced. They are scared. Callista stood beside him, her heart racing. Now what? She asked. Now we give them a target, he said. He pulled up a program on his computer, began typing. I am going to send an encrypted email to Rinaldi's private server. Anonymous tip that Isolde will be at a specific location tomorrow night, ready to hand over documents to the authorities. He will tell Vesper. And they will send someone to intercept her. To intercept me, Callista corrected. Sebastian's hand stilled on the keyboard. I do not like using you as bait, he said quietly. You have a better idea, she asked. He was silent for a moment. No, he admitted. But I will have 20 men in that building. Snipers on every roof. You will wear a wire and a tracker. And if anything goes wrong, I will burn the whole place down to get you out. The ferocity in his voice made her chest tighten. Come here, she said softly. He turned, and she pulled him into her arms, held him close. I trust you, she whispered against his chest. Do not make me regret it. The location they chose was an abandoned factory on the mainland, far enough from Venice to be isolated, close enough for rapid response. Sebastian's team spent the day turning it into a kill box, cameras in every shadow, exits sealed except for the ones they controlled. Callista spent the day becoming Isolde. Sebastian showed her videos of his late wife, her mannerisms, her voice. The way she tilted her head when she was thinking, the way she laughed. It was eerie, watching herself become a ghost. That evening, as the sun set over the mountains, Sebastian found her in the library. She was dressed in clothes Isolde had worn, her hair styled the way Isolde had worn it. The resemblance was uncanny. He stopped in the doorway, his face going pale. Callista, he said, his voice strained. Is this too much? She asked. Should I change? He crossed to her, framed her face in his hands. You are not her, he said fiercely. And I need you to remember that. No matter what happens tonight, you are Callista. You are alive. You are here. And when this is over, I am going to spend a very long time making sure you know the difference between the ghost and the girl I... He stopped himself. Say it, Callista whispered. The girl I am falling in love with, Sebastian finished, his eyes searching hers. Despite everything, despite the danger waiting for them, she smiled. Good, she said, because I already fell. Now let us go kill some monsters so we can have a real first date. His laugh was surprised and genuine. Dinner and a movie? He asked. I was thinking more like burning Vesper's empire and dancing in the ashes, she replied. I knew I liked you, he said, and kissed her hard enough to smudge her lipstick. The factory was cold and dark when they arrived. Sebastian had insisted on driving her himself, his team already in position. He walked her to the center of the main floor, where a single light illuminated a metal table and 2 chairs. This is where you sit, he said. The wire is active. I will hear everything. The tracker is in your watch. Do not take it off. And Callista, if you get scared, if you want out, you say the word Rosso, and we extract you immediately. Understood. Understood, she said. He kissed her once more, then disappeared into the shadows. She sat alone for 23 minutes before she heard the footsteps. 2 sets, moving carefully through the dark. Then Vesper Dalka stepped into the light, and beside him, Matteo Rinaldi. Both men held guns. Both men looked like they had seen a ghost, because in a way, they had. Isolde, Vesper breathed. Impossible. Hello, Vesper, Callista said, pitching her voice slightly higher, the way Isolde's had been in the videos. Did you miss me? Rinaldi raised his weapon. She is wired, he hissed. This is a trap. Of course it is a trap, Callista said calmly. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Shoot me again. Vesper's face twisted. I never shot you, he said. I cut your brake lines. Quick, clean, merciful. You were dead before you knew what happened. And yet here I am, Callista said, standing slowly. Funny how that works. She pulled a flash drive from her pocket, set it on the table. 5 years of evidence. Every name, every transaction, every child you sold. It goes to Interpol, the FBI, and the media in 12 hours, unless you do exactly what I say. What do you want? Rinaldi demanded. I want you to confess, Callista said. Right here, right now. I want to hear you say what you did. And then I want you to put your guns down and walk out of here, knowing that for the rest of your miserable lives, I own you. Vesper laughed, a jagged sound. You think we are just going to confess and leave. You think we are that stupid. I think you are that arrogant, Callista replied. And I think you will do anything to survive. So yes, confess. Or I release everything, and you both go to prison where men like you do not last very long. Here is a question for you. Have you ever had to make a choice where every option felt like betrayal, where saving yourself meant damning someone else? Tell me in the comments what you would choose, because Callista is about to make the hardest call of her life. Vesper and Rinaldi exchanged glances. Then Vesper smiled, cold and cruel. You are not Isolde, he said. I do not know who you are, but Isolde Kovar is dead. I made sure of it. And you just made a fatal mistake. He raised his gun, aimed at her chest. Callista did not flinch. She smiled. Rosso, she said clearly, and the world erupted. Lights blazed from every corner. Red dots appeared on Vesper's and Rinaldi's chests, 20 snipers acquiring targets, and Sebastian Kovar stepped from the shadows, his own weapon trained on Vesper's head. Drop them, he said, his voice colder than the grave. Now. The guns clattered to the floor. Vesper's face went from smug to terrified in a heartbeat. Sebastian, he stammered, this is... You cannot. I can. Sebastian said, and I will. You just confessed to murdering my wife. We have it on tape, on video, witnessed by law enforcement standing in this room right now. He gestured, and agents in tactical gear emerged from the darkness, Interpol and FBI logos visible. Matteo Rinaldi, you are under arrest for human trafficking, corruption, and accessory to murder. Vesper Dalka, same charges, plus the murder of Isolde Kovar. As the agents swarmed them, Vesper looked at Callista with pure hatred. Who are you? He spat. I am the girl whose brother you killed, Callista said quietly. I am the woman who is going to watch you rot in prison. And I am the last thing you are ever going to see in your nightmares. Then Sebastian was there, pulling her into his arms, and she buried her face in his chest as the monsters were dragged away. The aftermath took weeks. Trials, depositions, media storms. The trafficking network collapsed like a house of cards. 234 victims were recovered and given new lives. Rinaldi hanged himself in his cell before he could testify. Vesper went to prison for 8 consecutive life sentences. And Callista Verna became Callista Kovar, not because she married Sebastian, not yet, but because he wanted her to have the name, the family, the legacy her sister never got to give her. 6 months after the factory, Callista stood in the villa library, sunlight streaming through the windows, a cup of coffee in her hands. Sebastian found her there, wrapped his arms around her from behind, kissed her temple. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "I am thinking that I was sold for 50,000 euros, she said. "And now I own a villa in the mountains and half of a criminal empire gone legitimate. Funny how life works." "You own more than that," Sebastian murmured. "You own me. Completely. Irrevocably. Forever." She turned in his arms, smiled up at him. "Was that a proposal?" she asked. "Would you say yes if it was?" he countered. "Ask me and find out," she challenged. So he did. He dropped to one knee right there in the library, pulled out a ring that had belonged to Isolde but somehow felt right, and asked Callista Verna to marry a monster who loved her more than his own life. She said yes. She said yes because some love stories start at auctions and end in ashes, and some start in darkness and end in light. Theirs was both. And that is the end of our story. If you loved this twisted, dark, beautiful tale, make sure you are subscribed, because I have got more stories coming that will keep you up at night in the best way possible. Until next time, stay curious, and remember, even monsters can love. Ciao.